Oh, we inch ever closer to that playoff picture in full focus. Some results and some hats and t-shirts on this day with the Texans taking down the Dolphins and Indy's eventual loss to the Broncos. You have an AFC South division champion in the Houston Texans. Perception and reality, always two ways. Sometimes those ways don't intersect. B-Mac.
Yes, sir.
When we look at the Texans, we're seeing a team right now that just got the hats and t-shirts. You check a big box. I mean, that first big box of a season, you get it checked off. You're 9-5, and still, this inkling of doubt surrounds this team. How should we feel, and what did this accomplishment mean on this day?
Well, you should feel good. Anytime you can win your division, that's a plus because it guarantees a playoff spot in the playoffs. It also guarantees a home game in the playoffs. And for DeMeco Ryans, he's done nothing but, exceeded the expectations, in my opinion. 2 years coaching there in Houston, 2 divisional titles already in his resume and counting. So you look at Houston being able to win the division once again, still have meaningful games left to be played. This is a team, when you look at their defense, you really feel good about their defense.
Yeah.
You're still waiting for the 2023 Houston Texans offense to surface to the party.
Of it here on Sunday.
Showing flashes, but you want to see more because of how well the quarterback played a year ago. They still have room to grow. I think today was a bright sign for their offense because they didn't wow you in terms of points, but they were a little more efficient. Even in a day where you didn't get Joe Mixon's best effort, you still found ways to be successful. So hopefully they can stack these type of games on top of each other in terms of getting into the playoffs once the playoffs start.
Flip side of that coin with this loss, the Miami Dolphins really up against it. This was the moment. This was their final opponent with a better than 500 record. If you could have gotten out of this one with a win, it seems like it might be rolling downhill towards a potential 7 seed for the Dolphins, who started slow, had the Tua injury issues. But when you're looking at top-tier competition, this is where they often fall short, not just this year, but the last couple of years.
Since Mike McDaniels has been the head coach there in Miami, his inability to be competitive against winning teams has been the issue for him as the head coach for the Miami Dolphins. When you're playing against a team that has nothing going in the right direction, Miami, they give you unbelievable numbers, offensively, defensively. They get wins. But when you're playing against a playoff caliber team or a team that has an above 500 record, where are you? You have the same personnel when you're playing against lesser teams than teams that are really, really good.
What does that tell you?
Preparation. That's all about preparation, in my opinion. And that's something that Coach McDaniels has to become better at. If you want to thrive and be deserving of the money that you're receiving, because correct me if I'm wrong, he just got an extension, right? He just got an extension. So he's done a good job in making the Miami Dolphins relevant. But they want more. When you look at how well they played a year ago, even with all the injuries and concerns going on with their quarterback, you are expected to compete against teams like the Houston Texans. Throughout his time, that has been the one area in which he's failed, in my opinion, coaching against winning caliber teams.
One team that is always expertly prepared doesn't get a win on this day, but they do punch the ticket to the tournament, as you like to say it, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still waiting on those hats and T-shirts.
I don't know if you should get hats, even though you clinch.
What is it, like on the way out the door? In a loss because of another result? You win a game. Well, you're sort of answering my question already here. The Steelers did not bring their best in a big-time matchup against the Eagles in this game. They also have a lot of condensed, very competitive football coming up. They also are dealing with a lower leg foot injury to their star edge rusher right now. You woke up feeling how? You woke up feeling what about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're going to go to sleep feeling what about them tonight?
Well, I woke up wanting to learn that this team can be more than a serviceable team without their playmaker in the lineup in George Pickens against one of the best teams in the NFC. We saw spurts here and there throughout the ball game against the Philadelphia Eagles, but untimely penalties, missed opportunities led to a loss by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that the bright spot is there were areas where they could have really exploit against the Philadelphia Eagles. But the issue is learning how not to allow those areas to show up in terms of mishaps for your team. Now you walk away with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a very, very tricky timing in their schedule because, yes, you clinched a playoff spot, right? You're sitting atop of your division right now. But when you look in your rearview, the Baltimore Ravens, they're really playing some inspired football come off their bye. Yes, they played against the Giants, but they beat the Giants like they were supposed to beat the Giants. You already took one from Baltimore earlier in the year in Pittsburgh.
And I know how integral T.J. Watt is to slowing down Lamar Jackson, limited in that head-to-head matchup throughout his career. Is that the key piece to slowing down Lamar Jackson when they have done so with such effectiveness thus far?
No question. I mean, T.J., look at the numbers. When he plays, the win-loss record is better than when he does not play. That's all you need to know in terms of T.J. Watt. Now, we're not speculating anything. We're just talking about the here and now. He got injured. A low ankle sprain. Low ankle sprains are better than high ankle sprains, right? But hopefully he's ready to go because, to your point, this is a very, very important ball game. This could be the difference between playing in the playoffs and having a home game or playing in the playoffs and going on the road.
Yeah. We'll see how it all plays out for them. We do know this. With that loss for Pittsburgh, more likely than not, the race for the 1 seed, a 2-team race between Kansas City and the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo pulling off a massive victory here against Detroit on the road, a tough spot, coming off a gut-wrenching loss. Kansas City continues to trudge on. We'll see what the lower leg ankle, high ankle sprain for their quarterback looks like moving forward, Mac. But when we're looking at that 1 seed right now, Buffalo has showed the ability to win anywhere. They're pretty much in any time, any place. You line your best up, we'll line ours up. We've talked about it in the past, the importance of that 1 seed. Who needs it more?
Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo needs it more. Now, granted, it seems like Josh Allen is really loving indoor living in terms of playing inside. The last 2 weeks.
I think we looked at it.
He's been, what, the last 2 weeks in indoor stadiums, 40-plus points. But his defense seems like they don't love the indoor living.
This could be, we looked at it, depending on how the playoffs shake out, the last time they play indoors to a potential Super Bowl matchup, Mac, here on Sunday.
But the reason why I think Buffalo needs to have, would love to have, home field advantage more so than any other teams that could get the #1 seed. I'm sorry, it's only one team, which is Kansas City, is because you don't want to go to Buffalo in late January and it's 15 below and there's snow everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. Does Buffalo want to go to Buffalo? I know their fans are there.
They're
going to be shoveling.
Yeah, they're fans.
But they're a high-flying act here, like you said, when you get in a controlled environment.
Remember how high-flying they were weeks ago when they played in that snowstorm, basically against San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right?
I always think it brings 2 teams closer together than
Not when you got Josh Allen. Nuh-uh. No. When you have Josh Allen, you have an avatar at the quarterback position. It's 15 below. He's 6'5", 240-ish, 250-ish, running downhill relentlessly. No, you don't want to see that. Like I said, I played in Pittsburgh. I played in frigid temperatures from time to time. If you had to ask me, hey, B-Mac, would you rather go to Buffalo late January or anywhere else? Give me anywhere else. I don't want to go up there.
Unknown.
Because listen, if you live in a cold climate, you know the weather in Buffalo, their 20 degrees hit differently than 20 in New York or 20 in Baltimore or 20 in Pittsburgh. Their 20 is different. I don't want that 20. And I think the consensus probably would agree with it being saying, we don't want to go up there. Why do you want to go to a place where you barely can fly in?
Something about those Great Lakes.
You might not get out. Might be snowed in.
We'll see how that 1 seed plays out. Right now, it's Kansas City once again with the inside track for that 1 seed. Just a 1-loss team at 13-1 following their win over Cleveland on Sunday. A look again at your playoff picture in the AFC. You have 3 crowned divisional champions, with only the North still up for grabs. EAGWIN. For the second time in this 10-game win streak, the sky apparently not falling in Philadelphia. The Birds instead flying high with a statement win over the Steelers. Back in studio with the Mac Man himself, the Steeler himself, and we'll get there on the Eagles and Lions, but first let's take a look at that NFC playoff picture. Big time win here from the Birds, who now have that same record as the Lions following the Lions' second loss of the season by way of the tiebreaker. It is still a 1 seed in the hand of Detroit. Some other big movement here as well with the Seahawks' loss on Sunday night. They drop all the way from that 4 seed out of the playoff picture. Now the Rams, by way of tiebreaker, your 4 seed and in line for an NFC West divisional title. Those two again will meet in Week 18. But let's start our conversation at the top of the NFC playoff picture. Lions and Eagles right now. We've sort of been dancing around the topic the last few weeks about the inefficiencies defensively and some of the attrition that the Lions have dealt with. The Eagles right now, in your eyes, a more complete package when you're looking forward?
Yeah, in totality as a team, Joe, I would say the Eagles, they're more complete because they're healthier on the defensive side. No question, we have applauded Aaron Glenn and his entire defensive staff in being able to do more with less in terms of so many backups being called to play significant time because of key injuries, the key starters. But at some point in time, those injuries will catch up to you. And we saw that flourish before our eyes against a playoff caliber team, a high-level quarterback in the Buffalo Bills. But when you turn your attention to the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense, they've gotten better. They're healthier, and they're playing consistent, efficient football, and they're not allowing any splash opportunities from opposing offenses. And then when you look at their offense in the Philadelphia Eagles, they're the epitome of balance. They can run the football. And don't forget about Jalen Hurts, a guy who's been unfairly criticized, in my opinion. He is a legit QB1 still, and he can still throw it around the yard when need be. But their offense has been more predicated on the running game because Saquon Barkley has been unstoppable. So when you pair what Jalen Hurts could give you, along with throwing the football to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that offense can do numbers in many different ways.
So Sunday, a little bit more what you're looking for, in striking a balance there offensively, run to pass?
Yeah, and my opinion, and when you look at Detroit, I was a bit surprised to see the lack of balance because they did not run the football well. David Montgomery did not get going. It was almost like they wanted to have an arms race of quarterbacks with their quarterback in Jared Goff going against Josh Allen. You don't want to have that type of race because Josh Allen is like the Usain Bolt in terms of sprinters, runners. He can go at any given rate at any given time and win races with that said style. For Detroit, you have to get back to the attrition of what you've been. Running the football, allowing the run to set up the throw. Hopefully they can understand and look at that tape and see what they did wrong to get back to being the Detroit Lions that we've raved about over the entirety of the season.
Dan Campbell said as much postgame, said, we got away from the run and we thought that was going to be the biggest part of the game plan on this day. You play from a chase game script and you end up throwing the ball as much as they did. Jalen Hurts said postgame, is that what you guys want to see? They gave everybody a little taste of what they could be down the stretch. I'm glad you brought up the Lions there and what they are currently at the top of the conference, but also relative to that division. You have three very good football teams there in the Vikings, the Lions, and the Green Bay Packers in no particular order. Going to take a look at their upcoming schedules down the stretch here. I'm not here to suggest that this is a division up for grabs, but it could be in many ways a division up for grabs if the Vikings pull off a victory on Monday night. They sit there right there at 12-2 as well. The Packers going to be a problem for whoever they're traveling to, likely as a wild card team in the playoffs. But you look at the road ahead right now for Detroit and Minnesota specifically. What are you looking at more specifically?
Well, I think Minnesota, they have the more difficult task than Detroit because you look at that Green Bay Packer game. Yes, they get Green Bay at home, but the Packers are playing some really, really good football. And you better believe they would love to play spoiler. Now, for Detroit, because of what happened today, you've made this conversation extremely intense. You got to go to Chicago, even going to San Francisco. We don't know exactly what their personnel will look like, but when healthy, they have talent. So we're in a very unfamiliar spot right now, Joe, because it felt like the Detroit Lions had a hold on this division for the entirety of the season.
Hook, line, and sinker, one seed.
Facts. But now, because of what happened against the Buffalo Bills, the window is open for every other team not named Chicago in the division, especially the Minnesota Vikings, who are currently sitting with the same amount of losses as the Detroit Lions. So me personally, you still feel like Detroit should be able to win this division, but anything can really happen now, especially to your point, if Minnesota take care of their business against Chicago, and then of course finish the rest of the season out in the winning column.
So much to still sort here with 3 weeks to play, and that's how we love it. Just trying to figure out who's who and what's what to the very last drop. And we'll get a better look here at all of these teams a couple more times. I'm looking squarely at the Commanders right now because we always have our eye on that final seed, the 7th seed and all who give chase, those in the hunt per se. When you look at those in the hunt right now in the NFC, Mac, do you see a team that outclasses the Commanders, or still, despite some of their inefficiencies and trying to put games away, is that the team you expect to be at the 7th seed?
Well, maybe Arizona. You know, when they're running the offense through James Conner, they can be a competitive team.
Yep, right there at 7-7.
I don't trust the Atlanta Falcons. I don't trust Seattle, especially not knowing the status of the quarterback in Geno Smith. And, you know, for the 49ers, they need a lot of help. They have 3 more losses than the Commanders.
Yeah.
So I think it's solely
looking at the Cardinals.
It's solely about the Cardinals, in my opinion, who actually have 2 more losses than the Commanders. So the Cardinals need help, and they also have to win ball games. So if you're the Commanders, winning today was huge. Because if they lost today, they're 8-6, and even with some uncertainty with the teams that are on the outside looking in, those teams still will have a really good shot in, surpassing the Commanders.
A 2-point conversion.
Facts.
A 2-point conversion.
Which was I like the decision. I just didn't like the call by the New Orleans Saints. I hate sprint out passes and 2-point plays.
What do you want to see? Little rub concept?
You condense the field.
Yeah.
You minimize the field. And if I'm a defender, I know where you're going. Look at Sinistrell. He
broke hard on it, yeah.
Yeah, he left his wide receiver because he knew exactly where the read was. That was a 1-read play in a 2-point winnable opportunity.
Yeah.
Any quarterback, if you had to give them the option, would you want to have multiple reads?
Well, that's just
one?
Maybe in an effort to make it a little cleaner for Spencer Rattler to see, they made it a little more difficult in giving him that lone read left side.
They made it cleaner and easier for the Commanders.
Was a look coming on that back line, running that back line of the end zone, but in the end, an incomplete pass and a big win for the Commanders as they hold on to that 7 seed. For now, we'll see if anyone can give chase and catch the Commanders in this storied season. Mac, thank you.